dun, dun. This is always the most fun part of the show when I wait for the red button for it to tell us that we're live.
It says you're live.
We're live. Look at that. We're live.
It's alive.
It's alive. This is the Real Estate News Show, and I have guests in the house, and apparently I had to scratch my head and mess with my hair. But we're going to talk fun things today about real estate, and thank you to my two friends who are in the house, Scott and Chris, but I'll let them introduce themselves, and we're going to talk about, I just ran through the agenda. Doge. We're talking about Doge. We're talking about the onshoring that companies are doing back to the United States. And we're also going to talk about prop tech is set to explode. So what does that mean? And what's that going to require? And all of those things. So those are a couple of the topics we're going to talk about today. But before we get to that, I will let my my esteemed expert panelists introduce themselves.
Where are they?
Where are they? All right, Chris, you go.
Starts off, Chris.
Chris Kimbrough, Chief Strategy Officer with SKBM Smart Technology. And if you all didn't see my post yesterday with our press release on LinkedIn, please go have a look. It's big news.
Woo woo. Woo woo. Break it on the news show. What's your big news?
It's official. I mean, the press release is out. That we have forged a partnership with Asset Living around smart building.
Yay!
So it is out there. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
And there's more big news coming. There at least one more press release and hopefully two. So
that is awesome. And
follow me on LinkedIn. Follow SKBM.
Chris, exactly. For those of you that aren't in the multifamily space, Asset Living is just, they manage a couple of buildings.
Just a few. Just a few.
Like 285,000 units or something crazy town.
It's around. They just took in some more. I think they're right about 300,000 even now.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Yes.
Well,
and growing.
Good on them.
Yeah.
And growing. That's awesome. Good for y'all. That's great. All right,
well,
Scott,
your
turn.
Nah, that's kind of tough to file. I don't have any press releases. But I could make some up, I guess. But I'm Scott Casey, founder and CEO of Rover. We are. I've been in the space since 2000 on both the owner, operator, developer side, but now on the supplier side, and excited to be here today.
Awesome.
And if you are in multifamily and you have managed or bulk Wi-Fi and you're not using Rover Score, you are so missing the boat.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Third-party verification that what you've paid for is what you're getting.
Yeah, holding those ISPs accountable.
Yeah.
Exactly. Those damn ISPs. No.
Okay. Scott and I were just with them last week. We got to say nice things.
Yeah.
You do. That's right. Y'all were at the Broadband Summit in Houston.
Broadband Community Summit in Houston. Yes, we were. Great show this year.
Great show.
Really? What'd you get out of it before we get started on topics? What'd you get out of the show? What were the trends or what were people talking about?
I think a lot of the same stuff. I mean, it's a thriving industry. I mean, and that's one of the things I've loved about it. It's recession proof. We haven't seen a lot of dips, and there's so many new suppliers coming into the space, and just a lot of really good vibe last week.
Well, and there's new investment coming into the space too. So I had a couple of very interesting conversations with people who are looking to invest in the space. So I think we're poised for, like you're going to talk about later, as part of prop tech for bulk and managed Wi-Fi to really kind of come into its own.
So so everybody has a sense that the power grid is just old and arcane and not, it needs a major overhaul. What about the digital infrastructure? It's not a grid, but whatever we're gonna call it. What is it called, by the way? What do you call all the cabling and undersea cables and the Wi-Fi and fiber and all of that? What do you call that?
That's the problem.
Yeah.
We don't know
There
what to
is,
call it.
well, there's no standard. It's not like utilities and grids and things like that.
Right.
That's a good question. I've never heard that before, but um, it's old, and needs upgrades, and fiber needs to become more prevalent. So yeah, but I don't, Chris, we need to come up with a name for that.
I
We do need
know.
to come up with a name for that and some standards.
Yeah,
Um,
that would be good.
no, I mean, Amy, thank you for using the term digital infrastructure though, and not like Wi-Fi, because it is digital infrastructure, and
Yeah.
everybody we call it wireless, but it's not really wireless, right? Till
Hmm.
not even the last mile, right? It's
Hmm.
all connected via fiber, so, or cabling.
Yeah.
So thank you. Digital infrastructure is of paramount importance, because we cannot enable this, again, what you're going to talk about later, or maybe we talk about it now, but this
Yeah.
boom and prop
Yeah.
tech, we
Yeah.
cannot enable this boom and prop tech without the digital infrastructure in
Yeah.
place first.
Let's just talk about it now. So PropTech is set to explode. There was a couple of articles out, and I've generally seen this from from different sources. I think Business Insider had one. Property Technology Magazine had another, and I think that's Bianca, or be like I'm gonna massacre her name. I think her last name is Ford, but she started this magazine, and they're talking about how it's just kind of poised. But I would assume because of we're gonna AI is pushing a lot of things. I think it's just you know what's the best word? An upheaval of industries and all these other different things, and prop tech and real estate is no exception. And so, yeah, I think it's more along the lines of people get used to new paradigms, and when you're not existing, like say for instance, they're used to ordering a car on their phone and doing all these things on their phone or whatever it may be, and they want that same experience with where they rent or live or whatever it might be. Like, why can't I get this information? And I think real estate will be forced to kind of do some of that, which is super cool. But yes, it cannot do that without digital infrastructure. And I've been around you long enough, Chris, to say digital infrastructure. I knew if I said Wi-Fi, you would reach through the
I,
computer and smack me.
yeah,
I
it's
got it.
digital. It's Wi-Fi, single pane of glass, and future
Whatever.
proof. Those are my
Yeah.
three.
Oh,
Future
there you go.
flexibility. Yeah, you can't say
Future
future proof.
flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. Future resilience. Yeah. I got a
Oh,
problem. I
yeah.
got, I got, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure. But yeah, so okay, so PropTech's gonna explode. We don't know what the X is, 3X, 5X, 10X, 100X, whatever it is. There's an X. We agree that it's gonna grow. So what's it gonna take besides digital infrastructure? Is there other things it's gonna need in order to enable this to happen? I mean, eventually it's gonna happen, but hopefully we can do it in a smart way. So
Well, I think tenant demand is going to drive it as well. I mean, there was talk about this last week, when you see, and Scott knows more about this than I think anybody in the industry, like, but when you look at student housing and what goes on in student housing, and then you have these kids graduating, moving into conventional, their expectations are pretty high for the amount of technology that they have in their homes. So I think that drives it. I think that's driving it. I mean, even, you even think about, and I think I've talked about this a million times, but you think about, kids growing up today are growing up in homes with smart technology, right?
mm,
They're growing up in smart homes, and as they move out on their own, and most of them are going to rent an apartment and not buy a house first thing out of college. I think you're really going to see the younger generations driving this. um it it will become a need if you want to rent your units, right? It's going to
mhm.
become a need, because you're not going to be able to compete for um this vast population of kids coming out of college.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And I think My opinion is I think the prop tech is still in its infancy stages. I mean,
Mhm.
you pull out locks and cameras, which everybody's doing. It's a requirement, it's safety, it's security. Um, and I think the reason it is because when I was on the owner side, and when we talk to 100 owners every single week, they don't understand it. They don't understand, well, how can I raise rates? I want to do all these cool things, but I can't raise rents. Well, to me, there's two components. One, you got to have the right digital infrastructure in place, right? You got to
Mhm.
have a single ISP, a single network so that all this stuff can work. And so many conventional properties don't have that right now. I mean, they're just scratching the surface. I'm going from a retail to a bulk managed solution to where you can really onboard all the different devices. But I think the biggest thing and how I was successful on the owner side in selling, these cool things, digital thermostats and things like that was, educating owners that the real value is the back of the house and how it impacts their bottom line, their staff, their maintenance team, and that is what really brings the value to these owners. And then the icing on the cake is the be able to market really cool things to the residents, even though you're not really going to raise rates to have that stuff there. So I think owners still haven't, they don't understand it, and candidly, smart home suppliers aren't selling that. I mean, they're selling leak detectors, and you can close your drapes from your iPhone and turn your lights on before you get home. I mean, all that stuff is cool, but owners don't make any money off that.
No, I mean, does it? I mean, I'm assuming. I know there's got to be some study out there. I mean, they do the tenant preferences survey every couple of years, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know. I haven't paid attention to it. Or is NMHC not done it in a while? I don't know. I can't remember,
it's
but
every 2 years.
it's
Yeah,
every 2 years.
yeah.
Where does smart home technology fall on the tenant preference side?
And last time I looked at it, wasn't really cracking the top 10. With them.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's still up there. I'll tell you this. I mean, in the Class A, Chicago, New York, LA, high rises and things like that, it's a must. You got to have it.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
in traditional, owners just, and I will also tell you this, and there's a gnat flying around my face here, so sorry.
It's all
I'll
good.
tell you, I'll tell you this, I'm seeing a lot of owners now this year, since the big boom where rates were going up in double digits in the last couple of years, all that's settling down, and they're telling their operators find ways to generate more revenue. And I'm seeing that a lot, which is good because for me, because owners are saying, okay, now we really want to go to from a retail to a bulk managed, which is what I said earlier, gets them in position to be able to start doing these smart home cool things, which they couldn't do before.
Well,
Yeah.
when you look at the other side of the NOI equation, the operators are also being asked to find cost efficiencies. There is still, it's sputtering along, but this drive towards centralization and the smart tech is what's going to enable that, right?
Hmm.
But if you're talking about cost efficiencies, I think that, I mean, and I talked about this last week on my panel, and I talk about it a lot. But I think back to Scott's point about they don't, the owner operators don't get that the real values in the back of house, and I think part of that is there was a lot of promises made around back of house efficiencies, et cetera, by prop tech in the past several years that didn't play out, or there weren't KPIs. Somebody just had a post this morning on LinkedIn about pilots and how to do a successful pilot in PropTech.
Hmm.
And one of the major things was you've got to have KPIs and actually pay attention to them, right? So I think
Shocker.
there were a lot of promises. I know, because everybody's like, "Oh, it's shiny, it's new, it'll fix this problem," and it doesn't. No,
Yeah.
but I think a lot of promises were made, and I think we're kind of now circling back to, okay, how do we measure this value? How do we get this value out of the prop tech that we're deploying in the back of house? I mean, you can look at tenant sat, all day long, but if, in order to get that tenant satisfaction, you're overtaxing your property staff, or you're
Mm-hmm.
spending, additional money on operations, like where's the break even point there? So, yeah, I think I think we're at a point now where we need a re-education, and not to sound like Chairman Mao, but we do need, I'm like, we need a re-education of the space. I'll be publishing my little red book any day now.
That's funny.
Um, no,
Yeah.
but we do need a re-education in the space, and we also need to, with AI, a lot of the kind of the promise, I think, is becoming reality now, and it's becoming a lot
Mm-hmm.
easier to realize
Mm-hmm.
um that value. And so I think that the impact of AI, I think, what is it, Patrick Antrim said that it's changing things the way that electricity changed things, and I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure he's overstating the case there.
No.
So I think that everything right now is changing so rapidly, and I think that's part of where this boom is going to come from, is
Mm-hmm.
we're getting the impact of these new technologies and this new AI and this new, focus on back of house, and, getting the value out of this tech. And I think that's where we're going to see the growth, is the,
Do,
in the suppliers who embrace that, and who are actually talking about solving real problems, and have not about their shiny widget, I think are going to win.
do you think the property management companies and the real estate companies have the staff to be able to handle the tech stacks? Like, no, you're shaking. You're like, hell no.
No.
Like that was it.
Mhm.
That
No.
was a hell no. That was what
Mm-mm.
that was. And so then how do from a I mean it's coming, y'all. So how do the real estate companies or the property management companies, what does their next hire be if they're trying to prepare for the adoption of technology? Because if they don't, they die. It's like adopt or die, basically. Um, what do they need to hire? Who is the person that
You
or the
know,
key roles they need to hire? You think?
well, you hire Scott and I, but you hire SKBM and Rover. Honestly, I mean,
Yeah.
there's not enough talent out there right now, Scott. I don't know if you agree with me, but like, there's not enough talent out there right now to fill all those roles.
Yeah.
And you could fill them with a bunch of tech savvy people right out of college, but the problem is they don't know the real estate business, right?
Yeah.
And so there is, and Amy, I think, the fact that you're doing a PhD in technology speaks to
Mhm.
this, right? I
Yeah.
mean, there's a reason that you're furthering your education in the space, because the knowledge base out there is, I think, fairly limited when it comes to staff. So, I mean, I know I'm doing a plug for SKBM, but honestly, like, if you are concerned about it and you don't want to, maybe you want to test the waters, maybe you don't want to build an entire division around tech from scratch right at this moment in time, there are consultants out there like SKVM that can, and Rover, honestly,
And yeah,
and Rover
exactly.
Yeah.
Scott
Right.
does a bang up
Yeah.
job.
Yeah. That's a great question, Amy, because back in 2017, I started advising our COO, and we were a public company. We did on and off campus student housing, and I said you've got to start hiring maintenance teams who understand technology, because we're going to hand them an iPad at some point, and they're going to be required to be more
Mhm.
efficient on tickets and opening and closing tickets, and being able to know that there's 3 units side by side that they've got to go do work at, so they're not going back and forth to the maintenance shop and wasting an hour here and there. And so to me, and people don't really understand that at properties, the number one amenities is Wi-Fi, internet, all that stuff. Number two most important amenity is your maintenance.
Mhm.
And so it's, to me, it's got to start there, and they've got to understand how the back of the house efficiencies can be taken advantage of with smart tech, because they're the ones talking to the staff or to the residents every single day, and they got to show them how to use their digital thermostat while they're in their
Yep.
apartment changing the light bulb. And so to me, it's got to start there. And I don't know. I've been away from the owner side since 2019, so I don't know if they're what kind of people they're hiring now. If they've got better skill set with technology or not. But we started looking at this back in 2017, 2018.
Well,
When
I
do you
think that's
think
why
we
there's
have? Oh, sorry. I was like, when do you think we have like robots doing HVAC work or doing like? I mean, I think it's coming. Have you
It's
seen that? Have you seen? There was on the news the other day. There's this robot that was in Austin. This guy, and I gotta get a name, but it had a cowboy hat on. I'm sure it was like Matthew McConaughey voice too. Had to be a Matthew McConaughey voice. But it was running around and interacting with people
yeah,
on downtown Austin. And
yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, I mean, it's coming. Robots are
It
coming.
it is, and I'm surprised. I was in somewhere in Arizona doing a site visit, and it was a small university town. I can't remember what it was, but they had robots delivering food. Saw them on the street
Mhm.
corners, doing
Yep.
deliveries and stuff like that. I think it's got to. I mean, there's so many things out there that if owners would just take a step back and look at ways to improve their bottom lines, stuff like that. Um, I definitely think it's coming. It has to.
Hmm. For sure. Sorry, I interrupt you, Chris. You were going to say something.
No, I was just going to say that this is why there's a lot of technology around maintenance now,
Yeah.
right? And AI is driving that technology even faster. But
Yeah.
yes, I don't know if it's driving it towards robots yet.
Well,
I'm not prepared for the robot
you're not
uprising.
prepared. You're not prepared, but wouldn't it be? I mean, like even with my properties. So some of the properties we had, they're like 2, 3 stories, but the HVACs were on the roofs, right?
Yep. Yep.
And you're swapping out an HVAC unit. Wouldn't it be nice instead of getting your maintenance tech up on a ladder to crawl up onto the roof, if he could just use a drone and go look at it and see what's happening, or
Hmm.
it could diagnose itself, so you don't have
Yep.
to put anybody in harm's way, getting up 3 flights in the air. It's just. I mean, I think there's just ways to. I mean, technology that can just kind of enable things, but I think
Hmm.
even with the newer sensors that are coming out on reading pressures and doing different things on the HVAC units, or even just on that alone, and having it, I just want the HVAC units to tell me when they're going to die
Yep.
and what's wrong with them. And like those refrigerators do now, like, hey, you need to change my water filter, you lackadaisical homeowner. Why can't the HVAC units talk to us too? Right?
Yeah, it's crazy because we got bought by Greystar in 2018, and before all that was happening, I was looking at some technology that would measure the airflow coming out of your HVAC system,
Mm-hmm.
that would then tell the maintenance staff when the real time was to change a filter. We
That's
change
awesome.
filters once a quarter religiously, whether it needed to be done or not. And I was working up a study. It was going to save each of our company as a whole hundreds of thousands of dollars in just not labor, but just filters. And because I think we're going to be able to do it just 3 times a year and still provide a great solution for that. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there that I think part of the problem is, and I see this now with owners. We keep going back to retail to a bulk managed solution. Is they've been doing things a certain way forever, and they're scared of change. They don't understand it, and they're worried about it. They've got investors they've got to answer to, and so it takes a progressive owner to kind of pave the way. And I think that's a lot of what we got to find today to make that stuff happen.
I mean, if we're gonna drop another or plug somebody else, I mean, like that whole thing that Taylor Wiedeker does with PropTech IQ and the ability
Hmm.
to explain to an owner, hey, by the way,
Yeah.
if you put this technology solution on your property, it's going to bring this amount back to you, like in
Yep.
savings or in revenue generation or in whatever. I mean, yes, that's just telling the story, right? Talk to people and what they understand. They understand money, but they don't understand technology. I think, and so I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
it's kind of an interesting thing. All right, well, yeah, we'll get there. I mean, it's either you adopt or you come kicking and screaming, but you're going to have to adopt technology. So might as well just do it the smart way,
Hmm.
for sure. Let's talk about the whole I guess the onshoring or the Trump effect with the tariffs and the wars and people or the tariffs. Well, yeah, wars too, and other things that people are bringing manufacturing back to the United States. So because they're doing that, you're starting to see a little of an industrial boom again. People are kind of planning for that, and so but how does this? I mean, this is going to impact other things too. If you're bringing manufacturing jobs back to the United States, or even if it's distribution or whatever it might be, that's going to impact multifamily as well, right?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's what I think is the most telling thing about this is that people are willing to do it. So that means to me that even though Trump has an expiration date, right? His presidency has an expiration date. If you're willing to uproot yourself and move back to the United States, move all your supply chains, do all of that stuff, and you're willing to do that, that means you think that a Democrat's not going to win in the next 12 years. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you just think that that's what's going to happen, right? And
Right.
so that's what I see in the tea leaves is that they're willing to do this because Republicans are going to be in office for a bit. So Vance is winning. I think that's what they're saying. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I
No.
think.
Wait, are we doing politics? I thought
We're
we were
doing
not doing
politics. You
politics.
can't avoid it. You can't avoid it. Not now. It makes
Oh
too much.
man.
There's too much noise coming out of Washington.
No.
But I mean, but yeah.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. I mean, the changes with the FCC, what Trump's doing, a lot of tough decisions, and there's also what goes along with that is there's a lot of rhetoric out there that, uh, but I think, from you mentioned the tariffs and things like that, and I think this impacts the technology because I've got customers who are saying we don't want any network equipment at our properties that are made out of China.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
it's not a against the Chinese per se. It's the fact that one is, are we going to be able to get product? And two, is it going to go up 40, 50, 60%? So we don't want to get backed into that corner. And it's amazing how many people are because I was like, I probably should have known this, but I was like, okay, I need to take a step back. And I looked at all the different products that we recommend and that we get involved with. I had to go look at where they're made and it
Mhm.
was shocking to me. And again, I should have known this. There's devices. Some parts are made in China, some are in Mexico, some are in South Korea,
Mhm.
and so then I have to go back and go, okay, well, here's the breakdown. Which ones do you want? Which ones don't you want? It's all good
Yeah.
stuff, but to your point, Trump's having that effect on things, and it's great for the industry. Pricing should come down. And it's great for the economy as a whole. There's more jobs. And why aren't we making more things in the US and keeping jobs in the US? It's good for this country.
Yeah, it's
So
interesting. Like, is there any networking equipment made in the US? There's not,
Oh,
right?
not that I would use.
No.
No. No.
no, I mean, but in terms of impact to multifamily, when you think about beyond the technology, I mean, this is just me spitballing because I'm just thinking about this on the fly. But like, I'm thinking, there's been this whole move since COVID towards remote work. I personally have basically not worked in an office in over 20 years, but that's me. Um, no, but there's, this move towards remote work. But when you think about bringing manufacturing back to the US, those are not remote jobs.
Right.
And you may be looking at population shifts too, because where are you putting these factories? You're not putting them in downtown you're not putting them in Manhattan. You're not putting them in
Hmm.
Buckhead. Um, so where are these manufacturing facilities going to be located? And even when you look at where the big tech giants are putting some of their facilities, they're not in places where there's a lot of housing,
Well, but
right?
look here. I'm sorry. Elon's building this massive AI plant here in Memphis.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And Ford has got a massive plant going up just, about an hour north of Memphis. So, I mean, there's, and both of those are creating thousands of jobs. You look at, on from a construction and a new development standpoint, those, on construction, been doing that for 25 years, and it's like riding a roller coaster. Can I get lumber? Can I not get lumber? And there's
Oh,
so
I
it's
know.
it's really helping, and pricing's coming down, and it's really helping on the construction, which is what we need. We need more housing in this country.
Yeah.
Well, and I think
Yeah.
you need it in the right place, and you need the right like flavor of housing because
Mhm.
I mean, if you're talking about factory jobs, like I don't know what those pay. I assume it's all over the place depending what kind of factory. But I think you're going to see a lot of need. You're going to see a need for more housing, but also you're going to see a need for it in places where it hasn't been before. And then also you're going to see more need for more workforce housing.
Mhm.
And that I think that's also going to drive some of the adoption of prop tech because as you're moving rapidly and you're doing work, you've got workforce housing, so maybe you don't have as many staff on site, like all of that's going to drive this adoption of technology, I think, as well. But it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, that's skilled labor, those manufacturing
Yeah.
jobs. Oh, and so, where else is the boom going to be? I mean, I kind of feel like I should open a tech school.
I know, right? You
Yeah,
you
but that's where
should.
you're going to see a lot of robotics and AI
Yeah.
stepping in, and you
Yeah.
know, they won't be filled with real live people.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a maintenance techs need to be probably have a drone pilot's license,
Hmm.
right? I mean, they're going to need to be able to use drones in their daily jobs, they'll need, I mean, I think it's just a different skill set, but I think it's cool because what is the average age for a tradesperson now? I think it's in the 50s, like the average age is in the 50s. It was 40, late 40s several years ago, but I think it finally broke the 50 mark. So if you're going to get kids, besides Mike Rowe, there's got to be somebody else that's going to get people to do blue collar jobs, right? And so,
Yeah.
I think it's because it becomes tech enabled that it makes it cool, right? And so if you're using the latest technology, VR, AR, and drones to do your job, who wouldn't want to do? I'd want to do that. I want to fly a
Well,
drone.
there are trade schools now that focus on drone, teaching kids how to be drone pilots. They come out of those schools making 70, 90 grand a year.
Yep.
And I mean, it's crazy. And, Trump, kind of dangled the carrot in front of this country about taking money away from the Ivy Leagues and put them towards the trade schools. I think absolutely. I mean, I think it's a great um, place to invest money in, and help grow
Mhm.
those skill sets.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be an interesting time. So apparently Doge is still a thing. I thought it died when Elon left. I really did. I thought it
No,
was.
there were articles. There were articles,
I
Amy.
know, I know. And so now that well, they got to pay for the big beautiful bill. So in order to pay for it, they got to sell off a lot of federal buildings, which it's be kind of interesting to see what those into. I'm assuming they're just all office buildings. Like we need more office building inventory. Like really. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. But I think they also own other things too. I think they own labs and different things
Hmm.
like that. There was one that was a part of Doge that was for sale in Austin. It was part office, part data center, and they auctioned it off. And they started that was one that I know of in, it's kind of close to me, but I'm assuming they're going to auction off more buildings, which just increase the inventory. But it'd be interesting to see what those buildings become. and what they kind of do with it. I also thought it was really cool that we obviously have an affordable housing crisis, and I'm sure it was all political. There's nothing done by a politician that's not political. They don't really do much out of the goodness of their heart. But if they get something nice done, they're giving away federal land so that they could build housing in California that's affordable, which I thought, that's actually pretty groovy. That's pretty cool. I think it was
Yeah.
a snub to Gavin Newsom, but that's just me. But who knows?
That's
Who
easy to
knows?
do.
I know that's super easy to do. But it's interesting how much, if you look at how many buildings and how much real estate the United States government owns, or even state governments, they own
Mhm.
a lot of real estate, like a lot of it, and they're not using all of it. So
And we're
it
paying
would
for it.
be, and we're paying for it. So
Yeah.
it would be interesting to see if there was like some really cool use cases around, okay, especially for housing, because the shortage of housing didn't go away. We just hit the big pause button on trying to solve it, right? I mean, it didn't go away. We're still in it. We still short of housing. Yeah,
Well,
I don't know what
does
we
this
do there.
require, I mean, Amy, I know your feelings on converting office to multifamily. Um, you wouldn't do it
Yeah.
on a dare, but I
Mhm.
mean, if we've got all this, these federal office buildings that are located where people live because they were
Mhm.
not remote jobs, you were in the office. So
Yep.
there is a population there. Does somebody
Mhm.
need to get really good at converting office into multifamily? Find a way to make it work financially.
Yeah,
That's that's got to be so hard.
it
I
It is
is.
hard,
I
but I'm
can't.
It
just saying,
is.
like, what are we going to do with all this office?
We
So,
took.
go ahead.
I just no. Go ahead, Amy. I'll
I was
follow
like,
up.
I was gonna, yeah. What is an intriguing idea, and this came because of somebody else, but building modular apartments that you stick inside the building. Does that make sense? So you have a apartment in a box, and it's got to fit in the footprint, and then all you have to do is stick it inside the building, and then do your hookups, because all the hookups are on the outside of the box. That might work. I mean, I don't know how to do those well. It's the plumbing and mechanical that kills you,
It's the
right?
plumbing. It's yeah, because you'd have to have gang showers.
I
Or
know.
you'd spend so much money doing plumbing. I mean, we
I
tried to
know.
convert hotels into multifamily or student housing, and it's just a mess. But I'll tell you this: one of the larger commercial owners here in town, I've got a relationship with, and they're seeing an uptick. People are coming back to work. They're coming back to the offices, and not
Mhm.
because it's a mandate. I as you can see with all the gray hair, I mean, I've a lot of experience in my life, and I preach to these young people, you got to go back to the office. How are you going to get promoted? How are you going to
Mhm.
learn? How are you going to get involved in other projects and things like that? And, they don't want to, but I think,
Yeah, but that's
there's
still a lot of office space to
no
occupy.
question, no question.
Mhm.
I don't know what you do with it. Tear it
Yeah.
down.
Tear
Yeah,
it
I
down.
know.
Yeah,
Right. But that's not green. You can't, if
no,
you tear it down, it's not green. It's not sustainable.
Yeah, but I
You
don't
have
think
to, yeah.
that's I don't think that that's as big a concern.
Yeah, that's true. That's
So,
true. I mean, it's not as big of a concern now. I think it's, yeah, I mean, I think we have to, like, one, with all the old buildings, you like redesign a whole, like downtown Houston, nobody's in the office in downtown Houston. Like, no one's there. Like, it's completely empty. I think the occupancy is below 50%. Don't quote me, but I
wow,
think it's awful in downtown
wow,
Houston.
yeah.
And so, or Austin, is their vacancy is about, across the whole market of Austin, it's like 25% vacancy in office in Austin. So it's interesting. Um, so yeah, what do you do? But those buildings, you're so dependent upon floor plate. You're so dependent upon where the columns happen to be and what the column
The wet
spacing is.
walls. Yeah.
Yeah, all of that, where all of that is, that, if you can make it work, turning it into residential is not a bad idea, because I think the millennials want to live downtown anyway, right? I mean, that's where they want to be. So if they're looking for a place, they want to be downtown. I
Lots
don't
of
know why.
flats. There'd be
Lots
a
of
lot of
flats.
flats. Yeah.
A lot of
Hey,
flats,
Yeah.
maybe.
one thing we do, we've got some commercial buildings that we've done. And commercial owners are having to get creative too, to get people to come back to the office. And one of the things we're seeing now, commercial owners are treating their properties almost like multifamily, where you've got one
Yeah.
internet provider, and they're bringing us in to do, if they've got somebody come in and occupying one floor, we'll meet with them to do a tech assessment, and
Mhm.
here's what you'll be provided. Here's what you'll be required to do. You have to use the ISP that we're bringing in, because we got one ISP for the entire building. So it's very similar to multifamily in terms
Mm.
of, kind of move in and connect for commercial. And their tenants like it, because they again, similar to multifamily, you got to get moved in. Well, then you have to call one or two or three different ISPs to come out and get them hooked up. And so you don't have internet right away. You got to get your phones up and running, all that mess. So I think owners are getting more creative on, how to attract tenants back into their buildings.
Mhm.
But again, I look back, from my construction days, it would be, like I said, you'd have to literally have a lot of flats, just gut the floors and have a
Yeah.
wide open, floor, space of living. And I guess it could be done. I don't know.
Scott,
Yeah.
you're making me feel really good about myself right now,
Well,
because
that's what I'm here for.
yeah, I thought so. I thought so. Thank you for joining us. Um, because I need my ego stroked. No, it's just that, like, this is what you're talking about in terms of, like, having one provider in commercial office is what we were trying to do at CBRE several years ago, right?
Hmm.
And it was a hard sell then. Like, I think we closed one deal. Unfortunately, it was
Mm.
with the wrong provider. So, but no, it's something that's what we were trying to do, is kind of standardize that tech stack and standardize the digital infrastructure to make it easier. Like, you're going to get the big tenants, like a JP Morgan Chase, for instance, as their own. Like, you're not going to convince them
Hmm.
to go on your internet, right?
No,
They've got their
no.
own tech stack. But, like, you think about the number of tenants that aren't a JP Morgan Chase, right?
Mhm.
Um, it's vast. And, like, I know a friend of mine just relocated a headquarters of a company, um, and getting the connectivity in place was a nightmare.
Oh, and
Mhm.
by the way, the owner, gets to, raise the rate for internet to the tenant, just like
Yeah.
in multifamily. So they
Yeah.
generate a little bit of money off of it. So yeah, you're right. The JP Morgans, the FedEx's, International Papers, companies like that are not going to want it. But somebody that needs three or four offices and a conference room and a reception area, be able to
Yeah.
move in and connect and pay as part of your rent, they're going to
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
gonna love it. Especially, you think about, like, the pain and heartache of setting up the tech in a conference room,
Hmm.
Mhm.
which I'm not sure anybody does well yet. Um, because I haven't met a conference room I like yet, but maybe I'm not in enough of them. But,
Yeah.
like, if you can have the digital infrastructure there, and you can have some tech hanging off of it that makes that move in easy, I think that's a
Mhm.
win. I'm really interested that you're doing that, Scott. That's cool.
And they'll have a
Yeah.
Wi-Fi score at that building that can tell tenants how good the Wi-Fi is in
There
the
you go.
There
in
you
There
the
you go.
go.
Well,
in the
it's kind of
corridors, in
the
the meeting, in the common
yeah, it's
Mhm.
areas.
interesting
Yeah.
though. It's the opposite of what Wired Score would talk about, right? Because they want like 8 million carrier. They want every carrier on the planet coming into a building.
Hmm.
But
Uh,
then that just makes it so, I mean, you're not monetizing your infrastructure, right? I mean,
mhm,
it's taking me back to what people did with DAS. I was talking to somebody about this last week, like, because we were talking about managed Wi-Fi and like owning the digital infrastructure, like who owns it, like how do you finance it, who's going to pay for it? It's the
mhm,
same questions we've been talking about in the DAS space, and we are still talking about in the DAS space, for the past 10 years.
Hmm.
And but you think about, there are companies out there like Extenet who, what they did is, and I think their flagship building is actually in Houston. I think it's the it used to be the Bank of America building in Houston. But they went in, installed all the digital infrastructure, like all the, they managed all the risers, they put, however many strands of fiber they could fit into those risers, they
mhm,
monetized all of that for the owner. And
mhm.
it sounds like, Scott, like that, in the managed services space, that it's kind of moving towards that, um when you're talking about digital infrastructure generally.
Yeah.
I would think so. I think there's another trend that's going to be happening soon too, as more and more companies start AI enabling whatever their services are, right? A lot of them don't want to do that via a cloud solution. They want to bring it on premise. So Geico is doing this where they had a lot of their stuff in the cloud and now they're bringing it back on site so that they can be close to their servers or
Well, if
whatever it may
anybody,
be.
yeah, you're going to see a lot of micro data centers, is what you're going to see then.
Yeah, yeah. So that becomes interesting, especially if you're in an office solution. So now the mixed use becomes we're either in an office, but it also has a data center or a server room. There, yeah, that's not a data center; it's a server room. They have a server
Yeah.
room now, and so they're going to be the connectivity is going to have to up its game because of
Mhm.
and the AI inferencing that they want to do or want to be doing to manage their operations. It'll be interesting. And then, you have your server room and your stuff, and then you've got the robots walking around the hall, and they're going to have really good connectivity, so they can know where they're going and don't bump into
Do I
humans.
finally get my robot made like in the Jetsons?
You
Is that what you're telling me?
do, you do. What was her name, by the way? What was her name? I can't
Rosie.
remember.
Rosie.
Rosie. We all get a Rosie. I mean, we have
We
a
all get
Roomba.
I
the
need
The
a
Roomba
Rosie.
gets an
Rosie.
I
upgrade.
know. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't care about
I'm
all
with
this other
you.
technology. Just get me Rosie, because I'm the world's
No,
worst
I
housekeeper.
want the conveyor belt that gets you dressed in the morning and gives you coffee. That's what
I
I
mean,
want. That
all of
gets you
that.
like
That
All
would
out
of
be
that.
out of
cool.
bed, and you have the conveyor belt, and you get showered, and then puts your dress, and you're like half asleep, and then it gives you coffee. Like that's what I want.
That would be
I want
cool.
all that. I want all that
Yeah.
Jetsons stuff. It's coming, man. It's coming, man. Where's my
uh,
hoverboard?
I know. It's like super cool. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see where Office goes. Like a lot of it's so funny. A lot of the AI startups are taking up a lot of the office space. If you look
Yeah.
at like who's actually renting offices, because it's just like a creative startup. You're having to build things, you're having to do stuff, but you actually need to be really close to your servers so that as things happen or as you're trying to do stuff in your compute and if something breaks then you can do some of that stuff with it. But yeah, for
I still
sure.
like
I
Those.
the
mean,
I still like the WeWork model. I mean, I know that kind of
That's
went
what I
away a
was
little
just going to
bit.
ask you, Scott. That was the
Yeah.
next thing out of my mouth.
That's I
Is
still
it?
think convert a lot of these to the WeWork models. I mean,
yeah,
it's I think smaller companies like mine. I mean, we would use that all day long.
yeah, for sure. And the flexibility, especially for startups, yeah, just to have a co-working arrangement where you can, and that's why Industrious has done so well and we work and all of them. Like you could just, I have to travel and I know I've got a place to hang my hat because
Yep.
there's a place where I can go. Right.
Yep.
Yeah. I think those work. Like, yeah. But it has to be, we can get it. I'll have to get my buddy Hector back on here. He does the This Week in Co-working show. But yeah, I mean, I think office and co-working is great. And there needs to be in do we get over the fact that your business doesn't have an office address? Are we done with that? The stigma that you don't have an office address anymore?
So I
Or no?
have, well, I have an office address,
Mhm.
but it's post office box.
Yeah, right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's
And
by design. I didn't want it. I've got people all around the country, and I work out of my house, but I didn't want my all this work mail coming to my house. I wanted a real corporate office address, and
mhm.
it's through UPS.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
So
got you.
yeah, so you can get around that, and um, no, I think you're right.
So you don't have to be, you don't have to have an office to be legit anymore. I think people have gotten over it, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
100%.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. It's well, good. Finally. Finally. All those startups, we don't have to have an office to be legit. Finally. All right.
Finally.
Finally, I know. Lord, it's so silly. Okay. Well, all right. So the other big thing I wanted to talk about from the real estate side is um the Fed is going to get together at the end of the month. Not talking politics, but talking rates. What is, as we leave today, you pull out your little crystal ball. Are they going to lower rates? Are they going to raise rates? What are they going to do? Because they meet at the end of the month. What do you think, Chris? Are they going to lower rates, keep them same, raise rates? They're not going to raise. Are
They're
they
not
going to
going to
lower?
raise rates. I don't think they're going to change them. I think, maybe possibly out of spite,
I
but
know, right? That was going to be my answer. They're going to keep them right where they are.
right where they are. I don't know. I mean, when you look at, I was just reading an article about this yesterday. Trump is not wrong that, uh, you look at the European Central Bank and, they've reduced rates over the past,
Yeah,
year, and you look at
yeah.
some of the other central banks across the world, and you see rates coming down. Um, I think though that, and I think that they're genuinely concerned that if they reduce rates at this point, that because of the volatility in the markets, like they don't know, like they could reduce them one day and then a week later be like, oh my God, what the heck did we do?
I know, right?
So I just think with all the everything going on right now, it's really hard for them to make that decision. I mean,
Hmm.
I would like to see them go down a little bit, but
Yeah.
because I think it would really open up things for multifamily and for technology and for all the things. But I I don't think they're gonna do it. I don't think they're gonna
They're
do
Yeah.
they're
it.
they're going to come down a little bit, and I think there's pressure to just give everybody a little. Okay, they're going to come down. They're not going to come down much, but this industry needs it. Acquisitions, dispositions are so slow, and because
Hmm.
the rates are too high, people are overpaying. People are losing out on opportunities because the rates are killing them.
Hmm.
Um, I think the pressure's there that they'll come down just a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Scott, I think you and I have even talked about this. Like, if you look at rates historically, these are not high. And
No.
so part of this is
Yeah,
psychological, right?
yeah,
I think that's what they're afraid of too. The psychological thing of, if they lower them, the expectation on the public is that they're going to continue to
yeah,
lower them, and they
yeah,
might not
Yeah.
be able to. Like, you opened up that can of worms because you lowered the rate, right? And obviously, they're not afraid of disappointing anyone. They're going to do what they're
no,
going to do. But I think it's the outcry. Oh, you lower the rate, but can we do it again? And the pressure that they might be able, um, you know, that is one job that I would never want. Like,
mm-mm,
I
Oh,
do not want to be
heavens,
the Fed
no.
chair. Oh
no,
my, that's just
No.
so horrible. The job
I
that
don't
they
care
have
what
to.
it pays. I don't care what it pays. I'm not doing that job.
yeah, but but I think too, to that point. I mean, the economy's getting better.
Yeah.
So that costs of living is coming down without rates coming down.
Yeah.
There's so many things that go into it. I think you're right, Amy. There is probably a little bit of fear about what happens if you do, but it would definitely help this industry as far as acquisitions go.
For
There's not a
sure.
lot of trading going on right now, and there hasn't been for several years now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. All right. Well, if people would like to get a hold of you, Chris, how could they do that?
LinkedIn, Chris with no H, CRIS, right there on the screen. LinkedIn, I do respond, or Chris at skbmsmarttech.com.
Very cool. And Mr.
Yeah,
Casey?
same LinkedIn. Definitely respond on that, or you can email me at scott@roverscore.com.
Awesome. And this has been the Real Estate News Show. I'm your host, Amy Palvido. I am the chairwoman of the U.S. PropTech Council. And these two lovely guests are also board members of the U.S. PropTech Council. And if you are not a member, well, that's just silly because we are the coolest
That's
people
right.
on the planet. And we are changing the world of real estate. So look for us at proptechcouncil.com, PropTechCouncil.com. So, yes. And thanks for watching the show. We'll see y'all next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.